So I can't help but wonder, is it because some of the men are responding to this case, this Cassie and Mr. Combs case? Is it because some of the ways that they are responding because they are a fan of Diddy, or is it because they are womanizers, or they are some of the things that he's been accused of? They don't like women, or what is it? I would really like to know what would influence someone to say some of the things that they say, and calling her derogatory terms. Calling her derogatory terms. Everybody have an opinion, but saying things, calling her bedroom names, or saying, that these are things that she wanted, and she knew what she was doing going in. These are things that she wanted to do, and just kind of carrying on. Now, if we really want to, dig in and we really want to look at the picture, right? They want to consider it that she absolutely was absolutely a willing participant in the beginning when she came into relationship with this man. Even if she was, I don't know what the laws is in New York or wherever they were engaging and where everything took place is, but I know in some states the law is that when a person is intoxicated or they are under the influence, an individual who is intoxicating or is under the influence of controlled substances, drugs, alcohol, etc., that it does not give legal consent. A person cannot consent when they are heavily under the influence of a controlled substance, when they are heavily intoxicated. Okay, so that's one thing. Secondly, if a person, here's another thing that is if we want to talk about the legal system, penal, criminal, etc. If a person goes into a situation or event and is a consenting adult, when an individual no longer wants to be a participant, when they no longer want to participate, and if a person is forceful or they're doing these things that are considered criminal activities, it becomes criminal when a person says that they no longer want to do it, or when you become controlling, or when you start to use different things to try to influence or control an individual. So people can argue that she was a willing participant in the beginning or at a certain stage or whatever. And even if that is the case, when an individual says no, what people need to understand is that no means no. And that's where the issue comes in. When an individual says no, no means no. Or when you start, just like a lot of relationships, when it starts out pretty and it starts out beautiful and cool, and it's all good and it's lovey-dovey and just beautiful in the beginning, right? The honeymoon stage or whatever you want to call it. It's always beautiful in the beginning, and then you get to know a person, and then usually it takes time, and then you get to know a person. And just like a lot of other people's horror story, some people, they come to find out that they're dealing with an individual that has a demon, that carries demons, that there's a whole nother side of the individual that of course they're not going to show in the beginning, and everybody knows how that is. Everybody knows that is actually a thing, that individuals, they don't show their true selves in the beginning, because this is the stage where they're trying to win an individual over. So no, of course they're not going to be showing their true selves, right? But, for an adult to be accountable for their role in it, yeah, she should take accountability as a woman for her role, or what she allowed, what she influenced, and just the way that she moved about in her participation in this relationship. But I don't think that we should undermine the horrific things that this man did, the behaviors that he participated in, and the nasty, filthy, disgusting, despicable, unspeakable things that he engaged in, right? The things that he influenced, whether that was by words, whether that was by force, or whether that was by substance. These are not things that should be undermined at all. And actually, they're actually extremely important things to consider when we're talking about not only this case, but individuals, just regular Joe Smokes that's walking the streets, whether that be a man or whether that be a woman, right? We're talking about predator behavior, right? Because we have children in this world. And I love good people, right? But then some people like, oh yeah, because we want to, we want to include the black, the black community, the black aspect of it, whatever. Okay, yeah, we love black people, whatever. But at the same time, it's like, when you do wrong and when you do, let me watch my words. When you do wrong and when you do some of the most heinous, despicable things, and then we don't even have to talk about the system. We don't even have to talk about the judicial system. We could just talk about on a spiritual level. Karma is going to come back and it's going to reach you with whatever, whatever you put out there in the universe. It's going to come back to you, period. And I don't know why that's so hard for people to believe, or it's just easier for people to undermine what this man did. Are they worshiping this man? Is it because he's black? Is it because these men that are calling her bedroom names and just really just kind of like throw her off as, oh, she just one of them type of women out there, so we could undermine some of the nasty, despicable, demonic things that he did? Like, no, I don't care if it was a man or a woman who's the offender and whatever race that they are. When we talk about individual, are they good for society? Is this individual safe? Is this individual safe to be in society? Because people are doing some of the most dangerous, demonic, disgusting, despicable things behind closed doors that are unspoken of, and getting away with it and victimizing people. When some people have a certain type of psychology, when they think a certain type of way, when they operate a certain type of way, it's one thing to think something, but if you're the type of individual who you think something and then you do it, especially when we're talking about demonic things, that's a problem. That's a problem for society. It's a problem for the populace. And depending on what type of things that an individual is into, they call it nefarious, right? So if you are a threat to society, or you have nefarious behaviors, or if you have certain behaviors that, is deemed to be a threat to society or other people, that's what they have these big institutions for, and I think that it's a place, that individuals that operate in a certain type of way, they have a place for them. You should know right from wrong, and you should know that if you are the type of individual who are too weak and you engage in certain substances and it take over your mind and it influences your behavior, where you engage in unspeakable things and things that you're later going to regret if your skeletons was to fall out of that closet, or people was to find out who you really were behind closed doors when no one is around, or some of your deepest, darkest, nastiest fantasies or criminal fantasies, some of the things, that people are into that will be considered criminal. It's like you probably shouldn't be doing it. And that includes controlled substances. That includes drugs and alcohol, whatever their, whatever it is that they use to get their fix, whatever their vice is, right? So when talking about these individuals who's hopping online and calling this woman out of her name and kind of undermining the victimization that happened to her, it's like you can't help but wonder and ask them, like, do they have a mother? Do they have a sister? Do they have an auntie? Do they have daughters? Is this the type of individual that you will want around your daughter? And like I said, this is not to undermine or downplay her role in how she partook in the events and the things that has unfolded, things that has transpired. So yeah, she should be held accountable. That's a given. We've already checked that off. We've already established that. But what about the heinous things that this man has not only done to her, but has done to many people? Is this the type of man that you want to invite to your cookout? Or is it because he got so much money and people are worshiping celebrities and he got this status and the things that a lot of people admire and worship? I don't know. I'm asking a question because me personally, it's not things that I admire and that I'm impressed by. But yeah, I think that it's a huge risk. I think it's very risky. And there's one thing for certain, there's one thing for sure, and there's two for certain. When you do wrong to people, it's gonna come back to you. And sometimes people get lost in their status and their money and their power. That's a big one. The P word, the power that they have over people, that they get this, they start to operate in the mind of being like the supreme being, like they're on God mode, but like they can't be touched. And that's where your empire and everything absolutely crumbles, because they say God giveth, God taketh away. Just because you have all of this fame, this power, and these things, and you have certain influence or whatever, you have to be able to control yourself. So we're watching individuals succumb to their karma, their ways, their ungodly, unrighteous ways. And nobody's perfect. I'm not saying, oh yeah, you're perfect and you got to be perfect and da-da-da-da. No, you know right from wrong, right? And then you have intentions, but then you're acting out your fantasies in the darkness that's in your mind, and constantly numbing yourself and just everything that comes with that. I could talk about it for a long time, but I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up real quick. But as I said again, I'm gonna say it again. There's one thing for sure and two for certain. What goes around comes around. You put out, like, you operate in a certain type of way, and you engage in all of these nasty, filthy, disgusting, despicable, demonic behaviors, and you feel like, you can't be touched and you don't have to answer to nobody. Well, if you're anything like me and you believe that there is a supreme being, that there is a higher power, and that you believe in karma, you believe in energy, and you know how energy works, and you know how karma works, and that you also revere this big God, then you know that you have to be mindful of how you handle and how you treat people. So there it is.